time of his trial in 2005, it was estimated that he was bringing in about $20 million a year. That came from royalties from songs, both his own and the Beatles catalog. He was never going on the road anymore, and the way a musician really makes a lot of money is going out on the road, and so he was only bringing in $20 million a year. But he was spending $30 to $40 million a year. He would go on these lavish spending sprees in Las Vegas, in Europe, in Asia, and that was Michael Jackson's really his downfall financially as his life grew to an end.
Michael Jackson made more money than almost any entertainer in history. Throughout his career, he earned well over $1 billion. Yet by the time of his death, reports claimed he was hundreds of millions in debt. So where did all that money actually go? It wasn't just Neverland. It wasn't just shopping sprees. Michael spent his fortune on dreams, business deals, charity, art, security, and one of the most expensive lifestyles the world had ever seen.
He was spending on art, spending on houses, he was spending on meals, wine, you name it, Michael Jackson was spending on it. Michael Jackson, in the peak of his career, was a stellar businessman. As his life wore on and he became more of a reclusive individual and less of an entertainer, enablers, entourages, handlers really screwed his finances up, and I think he withdrew from Michael Jackson, the brand, very much so, and allowed people to kind of hijack his finances. And, he didn't do himself any good by going on these lavish spending sprees.
Michael's earning power started as a child. As the frontman of the Jackson 5, he was already a top charting star before he was a teenager, but it was his solo career that turned him into a business empire. Off the Wall in 1979 proved he could headline without his brothers. Then in 1982, Thriller changed everything. It became the best-selling album of all time, moving over 65 million copies worldwide, and turning Michael into the single biggest entertainer on the planet. The follow-ups, Bad, Dangerous, and History, kept the machine running through the 80s and 90s, backed by record-breaking world tours that filled stadiums across 5 continents. On top of albums and touring, Michael built revenue through merchandising, licensing deals, and one of the most famous endorsement partnerships in advertising history. His multi-million-dollar deal with Pepsi add in publishing royalties from his own songwriting, and across 4 decades, Michael Jackson is estimated to have earned well over $1 billion in gross career income. If touring and album sales made Michael famous, one deal made him a mogul: the purchase of the ATV music catalog.
A note he wrote in the restroom saying, talk to Rodney about his publishing. So I'm like, yo, this is why I'm here. So then I come back and he goes, so I want to talk to you about something. He goes, I want to talk to you about your publishing and see if you're interested in selling it to me.
You wanted to buy your publishing?
Yeah.
Right, because I remember I interviewed Eddie Griffin.
Yeah.
Right, and those two were close.
They were, yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Eddie actually took Michael to his court date and everything.
Yeah.
And Eddie was telling me about the story that Michael was telling him. He was working with Paul McCartney on one of their projects, right? And Michael was like, you ever thought of selling your publishing? He goes, I thought about it. I wanted whatever, 30 million. He goes, okay, that's interesting. And the next day, Michael came back and said, I bought your publishing.
The story starts, oddly enough, with Paul McCartney. In the early 1980s, while the two were collaborating on songs together, McCartney explained to Michael how music publishing worked, that owning the rights to a song is often worth more than performing it. McCartney meant it as friendly advice. Michael took it as a business plan.
I bought the Beatles while I'm doing the video with the Beatles. That's gangster.
Right.
Michael walks into Paul McCartney. If you're gonna sell the Beatles, how much you sell them for? Oh, I don't know, about 60 million. Wow, that's a lot of money. Go right to his trailer, get his people on the phone. Paul don't find out till the next day Michael done bought the Beatles. That say, how can you buy Beatles? How can you buy Beatles? He said 60, I gave you 64. That's a lot of money. The girl is mine.
Your publishing's mine.
This nigga's a gangster.
Definitely talked to me about it, but then he talked to me about his it was really on his album, not necessarily everything, but just his album,
Oh, he wanted to own all the publishing on the album you guys are working on.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, and I was like, let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
In 1985, Michael learned that ATV Music, a catalog that included 251 Beatles songs, among thousands of others, was up for sale. He outbid several major players, including entertainment executives and even McCartney himself, and purchased ATV for roughly $47.5 million.
And that publishing company now forms the cornerstone for his net worth. And in terms of the Beatles' music, is that still part of Michael's estate?
Absolutely.
And in terms of the sheer number crunching here, could you tell me now what he paid for it and what it might now be worth?
Well, we bought the catalog in 1985. We spent $47.5 million, which is well known. We sold off a background music library, so his net investment was about $41 million. And while I can't give out confidential details, it's been reported that Sony ATV is worth upwards of $2 billion, and Michael owns half.
At the time, many in the industry thought he had overpaid. A decade later, it looked like the smartest investment of his life. In 1995, Michael merged his catalog with Sony to form Sony/ATV, a joint venture that became the largest music publishing company in the world, one that eventually controlled rights to songs by artists ranging from Bob Dylan to Taylor Swift. That single deal generated tens of millions of dollars a year in royalties for Michael, and it became the financial backbone he leaned on for the rest of his life.
In addition to Sony ATV, Michael has his own publishing company, which is called MyJack, which owns all of his own songs as well as many other songs we bought over the years. So when you add the two companies together, it's even more valuable. You know, one doesn't want to have to sell those assets. So, those are cornerstone assets that we plan on keeping for Michael's children.
Paul McCartney has spoken about the famous story behind Michael Jackson purchasing the Beatles' publishing catalog, a deal that would become one of the most talked about business moves in music history.
You were the guy who said to Michael Jackson, you should get into publishing.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Don't you love the irony?
And he bought all your songs.
Yeah.
And you've said to him, listen, I'll give you fair market value. Let me buy my songs. I want to own them. And he won't do it.
You know, it's a funny thing. We had quite a good little relationship. He rang me up one Christmas Day, I think it was, and I heard this, hello?
He's very weird.
Hello?
Yeah.
I said, hello, is this? I thought, uh-oh, wait a minute, this American fan's got my home phone number.
Right.
This is weird. I said, hello, yes.
Yeah,
No,
disguise your voice.
he's not here.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Paul. Anyway, he came over. I said, what do you want to do? He said, make some hits. I said, well, that sounds good. So we got a little relationship there. It was quite good fun. And it is true, he did ask me. He said, got some advice, Paul?
Yeah.
I took him aside and said, diddle-a-diddle, and think about getting into music publishing. And I thought he was joking. He said, oh, I'm going to get yours. Well, I went, he slapped him on the back. Good one, I thought that was a joke. And then I just got rung up and said, he's got yours. Oh. And I thought, hey, you know what is weird? I don't mind that because he had all the cash, someone was selling it, and he bought it. What I don't like is that I've actually written to him a couple of times with Dish in the Dirt. Howard, you got me at it.
Go ahead, yes.
I don't normally
You wrote him a couple of letters.
Wrote him a couple of letters saying, Michael, don't you think after even if I was just a writer on the payroll, after 30 years of being reasonably successful for this company you now own, don't you think I could have a raise?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, well, that's just business. I said, yeah.
But no discussion of Michael's spending is complete without Neverland. In 1988, Michael purchased Sycamore Valley Ranch in Santa Barbara County and transformed it into Neverland, a private wonderland built around his own childhood fantasies. The 2,700-acre property was completely redesigned to include a full amusement park with carnival rides, a private zoo with exotic animals, a functioning railroad with its own train station, a movie theater, sprawling gardens, and elaborate landscaping.
You're gonna see, the game room is right there. See where that big machine is inside? Yeah. That's where I play all my games. And that's the tennis court.
Running Neverland wasn't a one-time expense. It was a permanent, massive line item. The property required hundreds of full-time employees, groundskeepers, ride operators, zookeepers, security personnel, and its own private fire department. Reports estimated the ranch cost several $1 million a year just to maintain and operate, regardless of whether Michael was even living there. It wasn't just a home. It was a small, self-sustaining town built entirely around one man's imagination and one of the highest ongoing costs of his life.
As we enter the main foyer here in the main house at Neverland, this was a room where Michael Jackson would greet his closest friends, and it was a room filled with artwork. These walls had huge paintings on them, some depicting Michael Jackson in whimsical or magical situations. He also loved all kinds of art. There were statues everywhere. One of the statues that I was told was located right here was of a butler with a tray with cookies on it, so he would welcome people in that way. At the other end of the foyer, foyer down here, there was a huge clock, a two-sided marble clock that was so heavy that workers had to come here to Neverland Ranch and actually reinforce the floor here so that that clock would not fall through to the basement below. Now, from the foyer, we can take a couple of steps down into the main living room. This was filled with couches and chairs and rugs, and in this corner here there was a grand piano. On the top of the grand piano there were dozens of photographs, framed photographs of Michael and his family members and his friends.
Michael's personal shopping habits became the stuff of legend, and this is where the story gets fun. The most famous story is his Las Vegas antique shopping trip, where he reportedly spent millions of dollars in just a few hours, buying up entire showrooms of furniture, statues, and decor in a single visit. It wasn't unusual for stores to close their doors to the public entirely, just so Michael could shop in private, undisturbed by fans and cameras.
Yeah, I like those.
Have you got enough space for all of this,
Yeah,
Michael?
I do.
You've got space?
Yeah.
Well, in the house in Neverland? Or?
No, this would be for another house.
Oh, for another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We bought these, right? And these.
Yes.
And these.
You like your urns, don't you?
Yeah. And these we bought.
Yes.
And these.
Yes.
This table. Yes. These. Right?
Yes.
Look at these big blue ones. Look how beautiful these are. These, right?
Oh my goodness.
These.
Yes. Okay. Let's have a look at these ones.
They're beautiful.
Oh, that's only $275,000 each. So that's $500,000 for those two.
But he's going to give us a good deal.
That doesn't matter to you. Is he going to give you a good? He needs to give you a good deal.
He loves to bargain. Celebrities like bargains too. Let me show you.
And we're happy to give it to you.
His purchases ranged wildly. Rare antiques, fine paintings, marble and bronze sculptures, genuine Egyptian artifacts, ornate Victorian furniture, gold leaf decorations, life-size statues, working arcade machines, and huge collections of Disney memorabilia. He didn't just buy one of something, he bought entire sets, entire collections, sometimes entire rooms worth of inventory at once.
You love your furniture. You want these as well?
We got these, right?
Wow.
Yeah. But Michael wasn't simply an impulsive shopper. He saw himself as a collector and, in his own words, a preserver of history. His holdings eventually included fine art, historical memorabilia, authentic film props, antique furniture, iconic costumes, rare toys, first edition books, and music collectibles connected to some of the biggest names in entertainment history. To Michael, filling Neverland with these objects wasn't just about luxury, it was about creating a museum of childhood wonder and cultural history that he could walk through every day. Alongside the art and antiques came a fleet befitting a global superstar. Michael's garages held Rolls-Royces, Bentleys, Cadillacs, and Mercedes-Benz vehicles, along with a rotating stable of chauffeured limousines for travel and appearances. For longer trips, Michael regularly chartered private jets rather than flying commercial, and when he traveled for tours or business, he was known to book entire floors of luxury hotels. Not just a suite, but full floors. For privacy and security, custom interiors, dedicated staff travel, and constant movement around the globe made his day-to-day lifestyle one of the most expensive of any entertainer alive. Amid all the spending, Michael Jackson gave away hundreds of millions of dollars to charity over his lifetime. He founded the Heal the World Foundation, which funded programs for at-risk children around the globe. He donated to burn victims and children's hospitals, supported HIV/AIDS charities at a time when the disease was heavily stigmatized, contributed to disaster relief efforts, and funded scholarships for underprivileged students. His philanthropic reach was so wide that Guinness World Records recognized him for supporting more charitable causes than any other entertainer. This is a side of his spending that often gets lost in the headlines about shopping sprees, but by many estimates, Michael's charitable giving over his career rivals what he spent on Neverland itself.
Children show me in their playful smiles the divine in everyone. This simple goodness shines straight from their hearts. Being with them connects us to the deep wisdom of life. These children are a reminder of the preciousness of all life, especially young lives untouched by hatred, prejudice, and greed. Now when the world is so confused and its problems so complicated, we need our children more than ever. Their natural wisdom points the way to solutions that lie waiting to be recognized within our own hearts. Children are the world's foremost idealists and optimists. It is for that reason that Heal the World is organizing the World's Children's Congress next year, made up exclusively of delegates aged 8 to 16. The world desperately needs their innocent perspective on the world's problems.
Michael also poured enormous sums into his art itself, treating music videos less like promotional tools and more like feature films. Thriller alone cost around $500,000 to produce in 1983, an almost unheard of budget for a music video at the time, and it became the most influential video ever made. In 1996, he topped himself with Ghosts, reportedly the most expensive music video ever made at the time, costing around $15 million and funded entirely out of his own pocket. Scream, released the year before with his sister Janet, also carried a massive budget for its futuristic set design and choreography. Behind every one of these projects was an army of songwriters, producers, dancers, choreographers, costume designers, and visual effects teams, plus endless hours of rehearsal. Michael treated every video, every tour, and every stage show as a full-scale production, and he spent accordingly. Michael's finances were also shaped heavily by years of legal battles. The 1993 civil settlement and the 2005 criminal trial both came with years of attorney fees, public relations management, private investigators, and constant legal exposure. Beyond the direct legal costs, these battles also cost him work, canceled endorsement deals, lost opportunities, and damage to his earning potential during some of what should have been his most productive years. Combined, the legal chapter of his life represents one of the largest and least visible drains on his fortune.
So the pressure from his advisors was something they wanted him to do, because hey, he was living off of, you know, his royalties, and people around him, they weren't making no money.
By the 2000s, math had started to catch up with him. Michael increasingly borrowed against his most valuable asset, his stake in the ATV/Sony catalog, to fund Neverland's operating costs, his lifestyle, and his legal bills. Loans piled on top of loans, and the interest on those loans compounded. At the same time, his output slowed. Touring became less frequent. Album sales declined from their 1980s peak, and cash flow tightened. This is the turning point in the story, where a man who had built one of the greatest fortunes in entertainment history found himself, on paper, deep in debt. And vultures played their role in it too.
So he wasn't in a good financial situation. He was in a bad financial situation, but I do know that there was individuals that handled his finances were not doing the right thing. They were not handling his finances the way they should have been. So it was difficult. You know, it was hard for us security-wise, you know, not having been paid for several months. And it wasn't due to there not being any money, that there were just individuals that I think worked on his downfall.
By 2009, Michael was planning his comeback. The This Is It concert was designed to be his financial reset, a chance to pay down his debts, refill his reserves, and set up his future. Expected earnings from the run were massive, and Michael was rehearsing intensively in the months leading up to it, determined to prove he could still deliver the show of a lifetime. Unfortunately, he never got to perform a single date. Michael died on June 25, 2009, just weeks before the tour was set to begin.
And we're just getting this in right now, and it's very, very sad news, Jim Moret, and to all of our viewers. Both the Los Angeles Times and CBS News are both now reporting that Michael Jackson has died. CNN has not confirmed that, but the LA Times and CBS News are reporting that Michael Jackson, 50 years old, the king of pop, has died. A very, very sad moment.
But here's the twist in the story. Despite all the financial issues in his last days, Michael Jackson made more money dead than almost any other celebrity has made alive. His music sales exploded in the aftermath of his death. The concert documentary This Is It, built from rehearsal footage, became a massive box office success. New deals with Sony, expanding streaming revenue, and a wave of merchandising turned his catalog into a continuous income stream. Combined with the soaring value of his music rights, Michael Jackson's estate has generated billions of dollars since 2009, repaying his debts many times over and turning his estate into one of the highest-earning celebrity estates in history. That legacy has only grown with the release of this year's biopic, which introduced his story to a new generation and sent his catalog back up the charts. Moreover, the Michael biopic officially crossed the $1 billion mark globally in July, making history as the first biographical film ever to reach this box office milestone.
From the grave, he's still making a lot of money. He's making more money now than he ever did in the last 10 years of his working life, because the movie has now gone over the $1 billion mark.
Jeez.
And that's American dollars. So it is now the most successful biopic of all time.
If you watch till the end, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications.